Why do you think it is that people stop at blue belt and don't come back to jiu-jitsu?
Uh, I would say that the biggest thing is that like they're probably tired of all the assholes at work that are like, oh, so you're a white belt. Okay, that's so you're like at the bottom. Right. There's a lot of judgment that happens from people that have no idea anything about jujitsu.
No, but
But once you get your blue belt,
yeah, yeah.
now you've sort of conquered the work demons. You've accomplished something. Like you've reached a milestone. You're no longer a beginner of this. And I think that probably there's just a relief that like, oh, I did this. I finally, I got my first thing.
I made it.
I made it, and maybe depending on your academy, some academies like have scheduled promotion dates, and maybe you start to really show up at the gym a lot in the 4 months before that to really show that you've earned it over the last however many months, and then you get it, and you're like, whew, I did it, and then and I don't think that anybody's just like, oh well, you know what, I'm done, I'm out, I got my blue belt, I'm leaving. But then they take that week off. They're like, you know what? I earned this. I'm going to take a break. And then the week break turns into a 2 week break. And then once you've done 2 weeks of anything, then you've built a habit.
Right.
And so if you build a habit of not showing up at the gym, or you start to fill your time with other things, maybe the person that you're dating's like, oh, you got your blue belt. Let's go celebrate. Let's do this. And I'm not saying you're going to go on a 2 week vacation for that, but like, you're starting to get like this positive feedback. You take a few weeks off, and it does not take a long time before you feel like crap doing jujitsu.
Did that happen to you?
So not with the blue belt. But like there've been times where like you get banged up, or you get injured, or you'll take time off, and when you come back, you have this vision of like, this is where I should be. This is where I was. Let's say that I took, let's say that I took 3 years off right now today.
3 years?
But no, just a hypothetical.
Golly, that's a long time.
Let's just say that I left today.
Okay.
And I'm a brown belt, whatever, and I come back in 3 years. How do you think Greg's going to do against me?
He's going to kill you.
He's going to be a lot better, right?
Like he might kill you because he spent all that time.
Right. And assuming that he trains, but in my head, I have this idea that like, oh, we're the same size. I'm better than him. But like, I'm never going to, maybe I could make it up and get better than him again. But like, I've lost a lot of time. And so what happens is at the point of like 2 weeks, you come back and your cardio is way different than it was.
Right.
And if you're rolling really hard with people, and you're getting tired and you're like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Like I remember being able to roll the whole class and, just sort of be drenched in sweat, but not even breathing hard, but now I'm like, oh, this is tiring. And then you say, oh, you know what? I worked really hard last night. So you know what? I'm going to ease my way back in.
Right.
I'll go on Thursday. And then Thursday comes and you're like, oh crap, I forgot that I told, my girlfriend's parents that I would do dinner tonight. So, hey, I'll be back Monday. And then Monday comes, and Monday's exactly like the last Monday. It's no better because now you've only trained once for the last 2 weeks. Maybe you're even a little worse. And so you end up like in this, now you have to build that, you have to go through the initial 2 weeks, 3 weeks that are really painful. And I think that just kind of, it gets frustrating. And then, that 2 weeks kind of turns into like 2 months of you haven't been training all that often. White belts are out to get you now. White belts love tapping color belts. They love it. And
we can't wait for the opportunity to tap a blue belt, absolutely, or an upper belt, of any kind.
Right. I feel like with the blue belts though, the blue belt is specific because the blue belt's like right there, and you think like, oh, if I can start tapping this guy out consistently, coach is going to see me as that's my level.
I'm a new level. Yeah.
I want to prove my new level. And then there's also like a little bit of a junkyard dog mentality where like it's funny because like I'll get in a bad position sometimes with like newer people, but the newer people have this you know, and for good reason, because a lot of times they're correct. They're like, I'm getting set up for something.
Yeah.
This is a trap.
Yep.
It's a trap. Like,
He's talking to me right now. That's definitely my mentality is like,
No,
he's letting me do this so he can trap me into something.
yeah, it's, you know, and sometimes, like, you know, Coach Vaji does this a lot. He's making sure that, you know, you're progressing through the techniques the proper way that he taught you, so that you can, you know, so he's like, okay, he's following the steps. If you make an egregious error, he's going to sweep you or do whatever. And he's going to say, hey, I swept you because you did this part. Now, he could have swept you a long time ago, but he's sort of checking to make sure things are good. It wasn't necessarily a trap, you know, but a lot of times I think that when I'm rolling with somebody, I'm like, oh, they have something pretty good, but they have like this almost like a block where they're like, you know what, this isn't as good as I
better go another direction or
Yeah.
stall out here, maybe hold this position.
Right, and so that happens, like, you know, people get to a side control position or do whatever, you know, start to do an Americana, and, like, you know, it's funny being like an upper belt, and I don't actually do this. I mean, I've done it before, but you know, you can be in a position and just start grabbing and tugging on something. Like, let's say Leo's got me in side control, and I start messing with his lapel. Maybe there's absolutely zero things I'm going to do with that lapel or have zero ideas. But Leo's like, wait a second. Coach wants my lapel. Why does he want it? What does he need that for? I don't want him to have it.
Abort. Yeah, and then you try to, yeah, exactly.
And then you're going to start messing with that, and then I recover a guard or something, right? Like, there's just stuff like that can happen. And,
that's that next level stuff.
but the blue belt, you don't worry about that as much with the blue belt.
What do you mean?
A white belt doesn't worry about that as much with the blue belt. So they're actually just out to get them.
They're out to get, exactly.
Just out to get them.
Because they think that the blue belt is fallible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they are, and we all are, but especially the blue belt. So, you know, so you've taken a break, you're coming back, you're a little rusty, your conditioning's not there. The white belts are all trying to murder you. And, you know, you just kind of like, the break turns into a longer break, and then you just sort of fall off. And
so it's a gradual thing then.
I think so. I don't think
it's not so much like they just don't show up.
It's not like they graduated and they're like, oh, I did it.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Have you seen that a lot? Just real quick.
I've seen a few people. Yeah. It's, you know, and it's also like I've seen it a lot with blue belts, but I've also seen it with white belts. I've seen it with just people all over the place, right?
It almost makes sense in white belt though, because you feel like you didn't get anywhere, and why, you know what I mean? Like, it makes more sense to me that a white belt would stop training than a blue belt would stop training. But you
could also look at it as like, well, you know, if let's say that I've been training for 18 months and I'm doing pretty good, but I'm like, I've realized kind of that jiu-jitsu is not for me. Jiu-jitsu is not my thing. I'm not going to do this for the rest of my life.
I can't even imagine that.
I don't want to be a black belt, right? Because I know that's going to that means that I'm going to be doing this for the next 7 years, 8 years minimum, every 3 times a day. And, you know, I have a family, or I have these other things, these other commitments.
3 times a day?
3 times a week. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this a lot. Sorry. But essentially you're basically saying, okay, to get a black belt, I'm going to have to do this 3 times a week, at least for the next 8 to 10 years. And, you know, you're in 18 months and you're like, I like doing this. I don't love it that much. You know, it's probably a good time for me to just step back, whatever, but I'm not going to, because I put this much work in and I want to at least have something to show for it.
Right.
And so, like, I feel like if you're starting to feel that way,
what do you
maybe
do?
people just gut it out and they're just like, okay, I'm just going to keep showing up. You know, that way I get my blue belt. I can, you know, not necessarily to brag about and say I got my blue belt, but just for the personal sense of accomplishment that I accomplished something here. And so, you know, I think that maybe the blue belt has like a drop off because, you know, you're sort of lumping in a bunch of people that they probably would have quit 8 months ago if they weren't thinking like, I want to leave with something. And then the other thing is if you also kind of justify it because you're like, if I get my blue belt, I'm going to be a blue belt for the rest of my life. So if I do take a break, that's not a big deal.
Not a big deal, right?
I can come back and I'm still going to be the blue belt that I earned and that I am.
See a lot of suspect blue belts because of that.
Well, so then you come back as the blue belt and then you're like, you're rusty and you're probably maybe, you've obviously, if you're not on the mat, you are regressing. You're not staying at the same level.
Yeah, it's not like you stay at that same level.
Yeah.
It's the law. I forget the law of atrophy or something like that, where it's either you're going up or you're going down. There's no like you're not flatlining. You're not
Yeah.
staying there.
Yeah, you're definitely not just maintaining if you're not on the mat. So, so if that's kind of, so you take 2 years off, or you take a year off, or you take whatever the break is, and you come back, you're not as good as you used to be, or maybe now you're getting beat by people that you used to be better than.
Yeah,
That hurts.
that's really discouraging.
And then you say, okay, well, but then again, like a lot of times that's your intention. You're like, okay, well, I have my blue belt. I'll take a break and I'll come back later, and life happens.